Another Saturday in Tallahassee, another blowout in Tallahassee. Alongside Gene Williams, the founder and administrator of Warchant.com, my name is Tom Lang, and it is a 41-3 beatdown for the undefeated Florida State Seminoles. They now have a six-pack of victories on the season, halfway point, and Florida State.
Bowl eligible, baby.
Bowl eligible. You know what? We used to celebrate that not too long ago on the Warchant Gameday Postgame call-in show this year, brewed up by our good friends at DeLuna Coffee. Gene Williams, the defense, has given up 13 points the last 2 weeks. 13 points, and they were 100% the stars of the day. It was that side of the football. Your initial thoughts, and go ahead with what you saw today, good sir.
Yeah, obviously the story is the defense. Anytime you hold an FBS opponent, especially, look, I think Syracuse is an average team. I think at the end of the day, they're going to have about a 500 record. They're a decent Power 5 team. You held them to 3 points. That's hats off to the defense, and I know a lot of, especially not all of our fans, but I know some of our fans are very critical of Adam Fuller, the defensive coordinator. So I think it was good for him to see that. I mentioned that, Tom, it's 2 years in a row they've held Syracuse to 3 points. So he owns Dino Babers. That he's this guy. I wish we'd play them every week. At least Adam Fuller, I'm sure, is wishing that. So I was real happy with the play of them. And it was really good. I just flipped to the other side of the ball to see Keon Coleman, when Johnny Wilson is out, step up and be the man. Yep. He was the man. I think if I ran the numbers right, I think he ended up with 247 all-purpose yards. That's doing some things. It's a shame to me on that punt return he didn't get in the end zone, because that was some stuff. I'm still not always a little nervous when he fields it, but he gets a little bit of space.
Yep.
He's something special out there. He's a lot of fun to watch.
His confidence is sky high. This was a peak day for Keon Coleman. That first drive featured a couple of big plays. Yep. None larger than a catch over the middle of the field. And Director Ben, we have the photo. Let's see it. Everybody can see it and enjoy this. This is from Melina Myers of USA Today Sports. Look at that catch.
Beautiful.
That is outstanding. And what a great photo. We appreciate Melina and our folks. And
her husband, Bob, who's also shooting for Warchant.com, also had a similar photo, but it's not quite as good. Melina got the better one of that.
That is just one hell of a play. Was it a perfect ball? No. But when it's Keon Coleman, it doesn't need to be perfect. He will adjust. He will go up, and he will make the play. That's what he did today, Gene. He was the offensive star, especially in that first half. In the second half, the running game came to life a little bit more, too. There were some inconsistencies. Yeah. We can get to that and break those things down.
Yeah, I was going to wait now, because sometimes I'm negative, so I'm starting with the positive. It's mostly positive. We'll get to that. There's definitely some things we can complain about, but let's start with the positive. It's a lot when you win 41-3 against an ACC team. Yep. You got to be happy every time.
This was just one of those games where you're 14 points up and just push it over the finish line to get to 3 scores. The moment you do, the game's over, and it took Florida. We'll get to it again a little bit later. It took Florida State a little bit longer than you'd like, to get to that 3-score margin, but that they did. And I'll tell you what, Gene, Syracuse wasn't here to score 20 points today or 17 points, even in the way they coached. One of the most crazy things I saw today was the first drive of the second half for Syracuse offense.
Yes.
3, they get a stop. Florida State has 4 backups on the defensive line starting the half, which is also kind of strange. But you got Dennis Briggs up the middle, Malcolm Ray, and on the edge you got Byron Turner and Gilbert Edmond. And Florida State still with those backups, which is disrespect and a half, has put Syracuse in a position for a 3rd and 9. And Dino Babers calls for a draw up the middle on a 3rd and 9. If it's not a draw, it's a give up run up the middle. They're not trying to get a first down on that play. And it's almost like with the score 17-3, first drive of the third quarter, he says, we're done.
Well, exactly. There are a couple 4th down calls and he's punting or going for a field goal. And I'm like, what are you doing? Have you not see Dion blow a game with whatever? How much was Stanford up 29 points or something insane? Have you not seen Miami blow games? There's plenty of time left. Florida State can implode, but he gave up. I like Dino Babers a lot, but I was a little disappointed in him. As you want FSU to win, you're like happy he's doing that, but there was just no fight in Syracuse at all.
Well, and what broke them? The defense. That's where the good news comes in. That's where we focus on Florida State, and we're positive about what Florida State did. We broke it down in the pregame show. Thanks to those of you who stopped by Hotel Indigo for this morning's pregame show. It was a good atmosphere, and it was all about the defense is going to have to set the tone today, because if Syracuse own defense, Rocky Long's defense comes to play, the matchups are a little strange for the Florida State offense. But if Adam Fuller's crew takes the reins, just like they did against Virginia Tech, Gene, last week when they opened the game with 3 straight 3-and-outs, you can put this game on ice early on. And Florida State just about did in the first half. They didn't completely, but the defense made a ton of big plays. I think, Gene, none larger than, even though Florida State didn't come up with any points out of this sequence, Josh Farmer's play up the middle. What an outstanding play to force a turnover in a short field for the offense. He was explosive at times when he was out there. I thought the defense coverage-wise did pretty good out there too, Gene, because Garrett Schrader was being rolled to the left and to the right. They weren't going to stand him back there like a statue to get killed, but the coverage held up pretty decently. They rallied to the ball pretty good, had a couple of bad moments, but wrap up and tackle. But overall, this was a dominant effort today in a sport, in an era of this sport, Gene, where offense dominates the way, and it's almost impossible to score fewer than 17 points a game. FSU's defense has put 2 games in a row together in which they've given up just 13 points to the opposition. Very impressive stuff.
Yeah, it really was. One thing I really liked that Adam Fuller did in this game was mix up the blitz. It seems like before, when they've gone into situations, you see the BC game, we're just going to play, we're going to rush 4, we put everybody out in base defense and not do a whole lot of different things. There were times the blitz came, I wasn't expecting it. There were times he didn't. He dropped back. So I think that's what you want to do, is keep the offense guessing. I thought he did a real nice job of that. And even the front 4 at times, like you mentioned, Farmer, when you got your interior defensive lineman breaking through like that, bringing a quarterback down, that's good stuff right there. That's going to win you some games. And you look at a lot of their series that Syracuse had: 9 yards, 21 yards, 4 yards, -9 yards, -3 yards, 6 yards, 1 yards. I mean, there's a lot. There were so many 3 and outs or 1 first down and punt. And there were, there's a lot. There's some things you can bitch about defensively. There's a few tackling issues. It seemed like a couple times the end didn't keep contained on a few plays. They got to the outside. But man, that's going to happen every game. But for the most part, like you said, they shut them down. And I think they knew, Dino Babers knew, we cannot sustain a drive against this team. We're just not going to be able to score against them. There's no way we can score 3 times in a quarter and a half or whatever's left in the game, the way our offense is playing, the way their defense is playing.
Yeah, strangely, and this isn't a Syracuse post-game show, but strangely, he dogged his own offensive coordinator at that first quarter interview when he says, we're in the 3rd down, we got to call 2 runs there. It's like, wow, you're gonna put your guy on Front Street, and it's still a ball game, Dino.
And that's your offense, Dino.
Yeah, the thing is, and I tweeted this out earlier, Gene, but that guy talks tough every year at the ACC kickoff. He's always got something strong to say. He's got shots to take at the media about Syracuse disrespect and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, then have a spine to go for it on 4th and when you got to have it, Dino, in the second half, down 21 points, kicking a field goal. Get out of here with that loser blood nonsense, calling a draw on.
And I'm glad he missed it. Not because I want him not to score, but I'm like, that's what you get for being a puss. You need to miss that field goal.
You said the quiet part out loud. Let me talk about our sponsors at DeLuna Coffee. The Voodoo Blend. It's still BOGO right now. This month, Voodoo. This is the espresso blend. Cheers to everybody out there. I'll ask Gene in a moment what he's sipping on. This is what I'm sipping on. You head over to DeLunaCoffee.com right now. You have a Warchant bundle as your option. You have the Voodoo Blend that's BOGO. And then they're up in the ante today, folks. They are happy about Florida State's 6-0 start. Warchant 25 is going to be the code you use at checkout. There's a discount code at the top right of the screen when you go to DeLunaCoffee.com. Anything but the Warchant bundle, anything but the BOGOs. Those are plenty good deals in their own right. Everything else, 25% off on DeLunaCoffee.com. Use code Warchant25. And of course, if you're west of I-4 and you're all the way to the Panhandle, everywhere in between, DeLuna Coffee is in the Florida Locals section of your local Publix. Again, that's the Florida Locals section. We'll show you a photo of what that actually looks like before the show is out. So thank you to our friends at DeLuna Coffee. And again, this isn't about Dino Babers' weakness. This is about Florida State's strength. And Gene, while the offense was inconsistent today, it certainly had its strong moments. Every player, Keon Coleman was really good the whole way through, but every player had a moment in which they shined. What do you think stood out to you the most today about Florida State's performance?
Well, other than Keon, of course, and a lot of people on Akeem Williams, and we knew the potential of that guy coming in, and he was one of these guys who's a little bit raw coming in, but the size and speed with that kid, and you see getting the ball in the open field, that was exciting to me to see the future, because hate it, but Johnny's going to be gone. Keon and these guys are going to be gone next year, so that's the next wave, so that's promising for the future, so that's something you look at in this game. I think it was, Jordan being a Warrior again, getting that shoulder popped out again, that left shoulder. So that was a little bit of a scary moment there. I didn't see a whole lot of signs of it, other than I really didn't see a whole lot of running in the second half, not like he needed to. Benson ran, I thought, pretty well. I thought for the most part he did his opportunities. Obviously, Toa Feely having that big run down the sideline late in the game was really nice to see. I would like to see more receivers involved. Jaheim, receivers, you got to include Jaheim Bell, even though he had a drop. which pissed me off. But I mean, that play he had down the middle and the guy shoestring tackle, I thought maybe he was going to take that to the house. That was really sweet. And they did. They got Destin Hill a little bit more involved.
Yep.
Which I still think he's going to have a game or two where he's going to blow up, but at least to see him get more involved in the offense was positive. So line did well blocking. You saw rarely Travis under pressure. I'm curious. I don't know why this is that play in the second half. The game was almost over when Jordan had it. And it's weird. They got pressure on him up the middle, and he had left. He started running to the left, and he had thing, and he cut back right into the guy. I've never seen anything. It's like usually it's a pretty good feel. Worst case, you run out there, people are covered, you throw it out of bounds, you got a 3rd and 5, instead you had a 3rd and 11.
Yeah.
That was a weird decision by Jordan on that play.
Are you talking about the goal?
They're down on the 5-yard line.
Yeah, okay.
And there's pressure up the middle. He starts going outside, and he can get outside. He can run. Maybe he can run forward. He could throw it or do whatever. But he had field to work with, and he cut back into the guy. I didn't know what that was about.
So the problem is that's a run up the middle. It's got an RPO element to it, but the snap from Mo Smith was bad, and so they were going to give it to Trey all the way, I think, up the middle on that play, and then he breaks outside to the left. We may not be talking about the same one, but they're moving right to left on the screen. It's goal to go. It's 2nd and goal from about the 5 or the 6 yard line. The snapping was a bit of an issue today. There were 3 or 4 of them that
was weird because I had to look to see Maurice was still at center. I'm like, that's the right center, but
I think that was a give to Trey all the way if the snap was clean. But then Jordan
so he just got confused. But it seemed like after he knew pressure and he started running out to the wide side, and then suddenly he cut back in. I didn't know what was going on there.
So we'll get again to some of the struggles that Florida State had in just a moment. But, Trey Benson, I thought, Gene, on that drive that Florida State goes up 24-3, it all gets started with Jordan rolling to the right and then Jaheim Bell releasing off of his block.
Beautiful that was Mahomes-esque right there on that play.
It was. And that's alert that I saw some people say it's street ball. They can do that. That's part of the offense. Jaheim Bell knows to be alert in a situation like that, to be open for his quarterback if Jordan's not going to run. So it's not like they invented something out of thin air. That's an alert that they have. But then after that point where Jaheim makes the catch and he runs for a million yards, then Trey Benson takes over on that drive, Gene. And the reason that Jordan Travis can cap it off with a rushing touchdown is because Trey ran like a man and that offensive line blocked like men. As the game went on, you saw more and more instances of them surging the line of scrimmage, just pushing it back. They got better, I thought, as the game went along. The biggest blunder of the game, unfortunately for Florida State, was at the end of the second quarter in which Robert Scott gets beat in a one-on-one. He's starting to get back up to speed, and his snap count, it'll be a lot higher this week, Gene, than it was last week. I think it was about a dozen snaps. But it's a 3-man rush, and he gets defeated, and that's how Jordan gets hurt with a blindside hit. But other than that, and maybe a couple of mistakes on counter and things like that.
The drops are the biggest issue I had. Now, I don't know officially. I counted 6, but I know a couple of them were slightly contested, but I counted 6 drops in the game. So maybe there's only even blatant drops 3. There were 3 others I thought they should have had. So that can't happen. It can happen against Syracuse.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in a tight game, those are the kind of things that are going to cost you a game. So, to me, that was the biggest criticism. You're right. There's some things they can clean up on the line. But the drops drove me nuts in this game. And then the decision-making, obviously, we'll get into some point Mike Norvell's play calling on 4th down, but we can save that for down the road here.
We're trying to get to at least the 15-minute mark here before
we get into that.
We're close, though. We're inside of 90 seconds, but kudos to the offensive line. And I thought it's garbage time, so Syracuse has some backup players in there, too, at the end. But that Keziah Holmes drive, Gene, where he starts it with a few runs, and there's the catch to the perimeter, catch and run. Offensive line, that's a lot of backup dudes in there. Armella's out there. Stickles out there. Bryson Estes is out there. Good surge from them on that particular drive when you're trying to build confidence and develop. And then here's something that folks really hope to see. I mean, is Hakeem Williams. It was kind of a tunnel screen. It's a hitch or whatever you want to call it. But I believe it's a screen because Julian Armella is somebody who blocks downfield for him. Julian gets down the field, springs him. There's a combination of names that you recruitniks out there love to hear about Florida State, that Julian Armella can spring Hakeem Williams on a block, and Hakeem was shot out of a cannon. So in the old days, Gene, you remember this forever and a day. The second half was about what's to come in the future for Florida State. Today, the fourth quarter was more about that. But you got to smile about guys like Keziah Holmes and Hakeem Williams. That's just
especially Hakeem, because it's these guys who come in as like a 5-star type player, and you hear the rumblings, and then nowadays everybody wants instant gratification right away. Well, what's wrong with Hakeem Williams? Why aren't we seeing more of him? He was this highly regarded guy. Well, first of all, you have 2 guys that might be first-round picks in the NFL leading the way at receiver, so I mean that's part of it. But I mean, and we've seen the development. You've been in more practice even than I have. from when he first got here last spring until now, I mean, the development, he's getting more mature. He's so much better in his route running. The confidence is there. I really like what I'm seeing him. So I'm really excited. Once you get him, Destin Hill, and some of these other guys out there and some big recruits coming in, I think the receiver core is going to be very solid for years to come. So that was very exciting to me to see. And you're right, man. I used to love the day. The best thing was sitting in Doak Campbell Stadium back in the 90s and the first team's off and all these highly regarded, because back then it was top 3 classes every year. And you'd love to see those guys the freshmen get out there and make plays. You can start, this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. So that was really fun to see in this. So hopefully there's more of those for them. And that's part of the thing when you want these guys to stay fresh. We've talked about it before. And you mentioned some of the drives when the game was still in the balance, having the backups in there, which we know there's last show, if you weren't on last week, we discussed the positives and negatives of that. I understand what Mike Norvell's doing. I agree to a large extent, but you're taking a little bit of a chance sometimes when you put in the backups during key parts of games.
Yep, and I'll get to that, and that's when we'll pivot in a second. But first of all, hit the like button underneath the video. Nearly 1,000 of you in here watching right now. 41-3, it's a beatdown. These are the Saturdays that we were longing for in the Warchant Gameday Postgame show for a long, long time. They are now here, and Florida State extremely impressive in the second half as they closed out on offense. First half and really the whole game, the defense was spectacular today. But, Gene, here's a reason to hit the like button underneath this video. My favorite moment when you're talking about context of Hykeem Williams' story. So Hykeem comes into spring camp. He's out of shape, and the coaches say that on record. He was not ready. He was not in shape for college football and the demands of a practice at Florida State. So it took a while for him to get into shape. And it was about maybe the last week of spring camp that it came to life. And he actually had a pretty good performance in the spring game itself. Carry that into the offseason, into fall camp. He gets trusted more and more as fall camp goes on. He's bought into the details, Gene, like blocking on the perimeter. He's very good at his blocking, and he takes pride in that, which is a selflessness. It's a cue about selflessness. Ron Dugans was very hard on Hykeem Williams and his development early on in the process, at the practices, on the record when he spoke. But then today, when Hykeem scores his touchdown, who is it that embraces Hykeem for more than 5 and 10 seconds? It is Ron Dugans, his position coach. And what a turn of events the last couple of years has been, Gene, for Coach Dugans, because Florida State's receiving core, it's not just Hykeem. Ja'Kai Douglas had a couple of excellent blocks in the perimeter today. Keon Coleman's blocking has come a long way in just a short period of time. Destin Hill, I thought, blocked very well on the perimeter today. They are pretty detail sound in this receiving core, and that's full credit to the position coach, who was, let's just say it, on the hot seat not that long ago.
And without Johnny Wilson, let's not forget that your leading receiver coming into the game was not playing in this game, and the receivers took over and had a great game, especially if you throw Jaheim in there. They were dominant. So, no, that's great to see. And like you said, the future looks good for those guys. I still would like to see some of the I was good to see Williamson had a big catch. It was good to see him get out there. Destin Hill get some more playing time. I don't want to see, you mentioned Ja'Kai, but, he did have a drop again in this game on a key third down. Yeah, I think he had 2 last week, and that's odd. I don't know what's going on. I know he's coming back from an injury, but Ja'Kai's got to secure that stuff, or he's not going to be in the rotation anymore.
That is correct. We do have a lot of people to thank, and then we will talk about that elephant in the room that has to do with the number 4 on downs. I know that Gene loves that, so I'll get him fired up. Noel of the people, thank you very much. Not a perfect win, but I'm happy with it. Yep. Would it be petty for Norvell to dedicate Rodemaker's final play to Cristobal? Yeah. The Noel Neal. That's correct. Thank you very much, Noel of the people. Joshua says 24-70. Appreciate that. Keon with 247 all-purpose yards. Great job by the defense as well. I see what you did there, Josh. Thank you for theming your post. Florida man in Texas, bowl eligible, 6-0. Here's the one. 12th consecutive win with over 30 points.
Wow.
No touchdowns, points, and garbage time allowed. Good work, boys. # finish the climb. Go Noles. That's a good one, Gene. That's a good take from Florida man in Texas.
I like that too, because we always have that feeling. Remember the end of the LSU game? The game's over, the backups are in, and they get that cheap score at the end. You want to tell people it really was a bigger blowout than it shows, and that kind of thing in all these games. So it's so nice when the second team can come in and stop the offense from scoring at the end of the game.
Didn't like that we left 14 on the field, but definitely showed some muscle on defense. Travis managed the game well. Keon was a beast, and a great throw by Tate as a backup. All in all, great to be a Nole. Yeah, take the underneath thing. That was the scout this week that we talked about on warchant.com. Gene, I thought early on, and thank you again, Zenol, I thought early on that was the approach, was there was more underneath to get things going. But then Jordan fired a couple of balls downfield. Some were good. Some
The
were
first
missed.
one he missed, a wide open Shaheem Bell.
Oh, man. And he was killing himself for that. Also, there was a 3-and-out in the first half. Little secret, folks. I think this is going to be on demand on ESPN.com. Watch ESPN. But ACC Network didn't announce this, Gene. They had a command center broadcast on ACC Network in which it was a split screen. It's like what they do with the megacast for the playoff. And on the left side of the screen, they showed the end zone view. So you could see the tight copy in terms of the film. You could see the tight copy the whole game.
That was on today?
It was on ACC Network. It was like a double broadcast.
Man, I'm watching with 2 TVs. I would have put that on the other TV. Darn it. I wish I would have seen that.
Sometimes it was like ants on the television, but it still told you some stories.
Yes.
Like, for example, there was one of the 3-and-outs early in the first half for Florida State's offense. Jordan has, I think it's Destin, but he's over the middle and he's wide open, and Jordan straight misses him. It's like a 12 or 15 yard in. It's the correct decision. Everything about it is correct, but the throw is just poor. And then the throw to Jaheim over the middle, that's afterwards, and he's slapping his hand because he's furious with himself. He knows he's missed 2 now. But then Gene finally,
Third time was a charm.
The third time, we talked about this, 20-plus yards down the field. His accuracy has dipped from 45% to 30% this year. That's per Pro Football Focus. So an exhale of relief when Keon Coleman is wide the hell open and he's hit in stride. It wasn't behind him. It wasn't too far inside. He hits Keon Coleman in stride. I think that settles Jordan down probably for the rest of the season. But that was certainly a concern that Jordan was a little off and on today. Would that be a fair assessment in your mind?
Yeah, I think so. And that was, I think, our biggest criticism from the last couple games was the what he does usually really well, and that's on the deep ball. And missing those. And it seems like teams are kind of seeing that and realizing, you know what, we can't let Trey Benson, this team, run it down our throats. So we're going to put people in the box. We're going to do press, even though they got great receivers, and just hope Jordan is not hooking up or we're able to get pressure on him, one or the other. And, eventually it burns you, if you unless you have really good defensive backfield. And I think that's one thing you guys did the analysis. I think the strength of Syracuse defense was more up front. It wasn't in the back. And I think eventually that cost them, and it should have cost them earlier, but it did eventually cost them on that play and some others where Florida State was able to take those shots down the field. And I wonder how much of that too is, Jordan seems to be throwing a little bit more off his back foot. I don't know how much the injury is playing into that. It's unfortunate that, to me, he banged up that shoulder again, because we do know that does limit his, running. And it's a big element of the offense that, it's fine. You won 4-3 against Syracuse, but again, there's going to be a game or two where you're going to need him to run a little bit in a close game, and that could be the difference. So I would love to see that shoulder heal up, and the fact that it's gone twice in a few games, I just think this is going to be a nagging problem all season.
Agreed. I'm going to cut in line, Director Ben. Hang on. Dane asks, "What are you drinking?" Because I promised I would ask you. So what is it today?
So I'm honoring, and they don't advertise with us, but we're going to do the Legacy Lager from Oyster City, the official FSU beer, which I guess they have on tap in the Champions Club, I was told, by people that go up there. So they do Oyster City, one of my favorites, and they do officially sponsor FSU. So close enough. So I figured it seemed apropos considering the show, and considering we went to a little tailgate before the game, and be able to take that out there.
Oyster City, if you want paid product placement, just let us know.
Yes, we're happy. Or we can do trade. We're fine with
that. That's fair. But we are more than happy with our title sponsors, of course, our friends Ed and Brett Lennox from Galuna Coffee. That's what today's show is. Next up, in terms of people that we have to thank, is, let's see, Director Ben, who do we got? We've got Yuckmouth. Good game overall. Offense still frustrating to watch at times. Why do you think the offense isn't clicking? Okay, well, here's the segue. It's been teed up. Gene, there are times where it just looks a little bit discombobulated, and I'm still going to stay away from the fourth down stuff. Jordan's missing throws. That's one thing. It's fair to say that he's really, really good, but he's not as sharp as he was last year. We've just got to be okay with saying that. Doesn't mean we're saying he's a bad quarterback. It just means that his downfield throws aren't as accurate. And if you can hit those, you're opening up everything else. And then the other thing, I think, is his running ability, his willingness to do so, and the ability of how smart it is for Jordan to run. With the injury, it limits your play calling a little bit. That, combined with the fact that the offensive line is not as good as last year in terms of run blocking, and I think you have your answer. Anything else that you see, Gene, that you spot and say, this is frustrating to me?
I think you pretty much, that's it. I think Jordan, you're like, it's a really good Jordan. He's still probably in the top 10% of quarterbacks in college football, but is he in the top 2 or 3%, which we thought he might be? Right now, between not running and missing a lot of those deep balls, probably not. I'm going to throw in the drops too. They've the last couple of games they had a problem with drops. I think they at least score another touchdown or two if they're not dropping the ball. So to me, that's something that obviously can be cleaned up a little bit. It's going to be a lot of work on the jugs machine, I would think, this week.
Yeah.
To try to clean that up a little bit. And then, again, I think a couple fourth downs, especially one.
Yeah.
And I kind of, the goal line, I didn't like some of the play call. To me here, okay, we got to get into
Here we
it.
go. So
I got to bitch a little bit.
It's the 25-minute mark.
Yeah,
Have at it, Gene.
we're past 15. I can do it. So the first one down on the goal line, I'm not quite as upset. To me, it's like it's third down on the 4. If you know you're going to go for it on fourth down, and they kind of had people spread out. The box was a little open for them. Benson's going to get you 2 yards. So if you're 2 yards at least. So if you know you're going for it on fourth down, I don't understand. It seemed to be 2 low percentage plays that are the low percentage fade to the tight end in the back of the end zone. To me, just strategically, what were you thinking there? I didn't get it. I don't know what happened on the fourth down play. It was kind of odd. Anyway, but the bigger problem I had was, you're putting a tight end. I know Jaheim Pell has played running back, but you're doing a wildcat. You're getting too fancy with yourself on a 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Yep. At that situation, I don't see the need. At that point, Jordan hadn't even been hurt. If you don't want to run Benson up the middle, do an RPO, do something, get him out in space, have a couple different options. You only need 1 yard. I don't understand the getting fancy. I understood it in 2020.
Right.
You didn't have the athletes. You didn't have the experienced offensive line. You had to pull some finesse to try to get that yard sometimes. You're a better team than them. You got more maturity, more size, more athleticism. I don't understand the thing of getting fancy. And again, it's nitpicking. I'm not bitching. They won 40-3. I'm thrilled. They played a really good game. I'm happy with it. Sometimes Mike Norvell in these fourth down decisions, I don't know what's going through his head. I thought we'd kind of got rid of that, so that bothers me a little bit.
No, agreed. And look, if you're just joining us, folks, it was 20 to 25 minutes, largely of positive stuff.
Yes, so I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm happy with the rest of that.
You're allowed to be mad about that because, Gene, if that's I don't know that Mike does that for a different level of opponent, but I don't even know if I like the message that sends, which is, some opponents.
So you're telling me if it's Duke and it's a 6-point game in that situation in the second half, you don't think he does that?
He's kicking the damn field goal, and I'm yelling at the screen like, Gene. Right. If it's a 10-point lead at that,
are you talking about the goal line or the Wildcat?
Oh, okay. So let's separate it. I'm going to go goal line first.
You're kicking the field goal. Yeah.
It's a 14-point game. It's 4 yards. It's not 1. It's 4. It's not even 2. It's 4 yards you got to get.
And they said RG3 did say the analytics say not to do it. So he was going against the analytics on that.
They're right. The analytics are sometimes analytics are, and they're most certainly right there. Gene, if it's a 10-point game and you don't want that 13-point lead because you're already up 2 scores and you want to push it to 3, okay. I don't know that I love it, but I totally understand it. 14-17 is a magic number. This game is done at 3 scores. There is no hope left. And the 17, being that's a magic number, it just drives me nuts because, again, Syracuse would have to score over 17 points today.
And you would have to be shut out the rest of the game.
The moment that kick goes through. Instead, you breathe some kind of life into him. And this is, for Boston College, that was plenty. If you breathe just a little bit of life with a muffed kick or whatever, then there's a different feeling in the building. I know that's on the road. But if it was a situation in which it's a 2-score game, stays a 2-score game with a kick, or a 3-score game, stays a 3-score game with a kick, understood. I get where you're coming from. But if you can push the margin from a 2-score game to a 3-score game, kick the damn football. Now, on the second try, I totally agree. It's 4th and 1. Go for it. I would always go for it.
Oh, yeah. I was 100% go for it.
In that spot. But here is where my problem lies. It's not even in the play call necessarily. Gene, if you watch, and the ESPN cameras were on it, ABC cameras were on it the whole way, it was a discombobulated mess of communication from the word go. The substitutions were off. Jordan's like, what the hell are we running? He's doing this. What are we supposed to run? And they get to the line with maybe 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, the whole thing was rushed.
Use the timeout. You're a mess. If you're going to run that play, at least run that play with coordination, because Mike ends up spending timeouts later in the half to try and chase a possession. I think that first one, Gene, is out of emotion. The decision on 4th and goal from the 4, he's pissed because he thinks they should have scored on one of the previous 3 plays because somebody missed an assignment. And that's immaturity in that moment from the head coach. The second one, I think, is just being stubborn. Just call a timeout, my man. Call a timeout there. If you want to run, DJ Lundy out there on a 4th and 1, I guess, be my guest. But at least reorganize yourself. So those are my issue is going for it at all the first time. My issue is with not calming the situation down the second time. That's my take on it. And then you got fourth down math from Dino in the second half where he's down 21. Today,
Coach, this is a lesson on what not to do on fourth down.
This
from
was
both perspectives.
For fourth down, this was not a good day. Jane Strickland has donated like 74 times today. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. He said earlier, and we posted, I think the offense was really good today. That's the thing, Gene, Dane, everybody out there, and this is why you got to hit the like button. Florida State's offense can be inconsistent, and it can drop 40 on somebody. Like
it was really good because the way it was doing stuff, it should have scored 60 or 70. That's what was so good. It scored 40, but and we're bitching. They scored 40 points, which we'll take every week.
Yes.
But it's crazy the way this game was going. All they had to do is catch a few drops, a couple better calls, and we're sitting here at 68-3.
So it's 40-3, and you don't score when you have first and goal from the 5 or the 6. Like, as Florida State had been perfect in the red zone before that. Like, I get it. Today's red zone, maybe not.
They're going to drop off in those standings. They've been tied for first. They're going to drop this week.
Of their first 17 possessions, they scored every time, and there were 14 touchdowns. That's the more important thing. Like, the ratio was really, really good. So this was a regression, if you will. This is the trend. Red zone issues, Gene, were there a couple years ago. I think even last year to a pretty good degree. But they've been very good in the red zone, except for today. And yet,
outstanding. Man, how about Fitz? I mean, just absolute money. We're talking about all this other stuff. The offense played. This we talked about. The defense, obviously, that's a story. Outstanding. Special teams. You fielded punts. You had a big punt return for almost should have been a touchdown, almost a touchdown. You made all your field goal. Fitz was automatic. Punting was solid. They shanked a punt. I mean, you dominated this team on special teams.
Yep.
So any hope they had of maybe getting back in the game, you kept winning that special teams battle too.
Agreed. All right. Now, from FSU Fan 1993, this is the last person we'll thank before we will take a quick collection break and then start taking your calls because the lines are lit up. FSU Fan 1993 blowing out Syracuse 41-3 with at least 20 points left in the field. And Trey Benson dropped like 4 balls. I don't know if it was that
3.
many,
I counted 3. 3 for Trey.
Is a testament to a team slowly becoming elite because we should have scored off the strip sack. Happy for Adam. And he's talking, of course.
Yeah, come on, Verse. You lazy ass. Get in the end zone.
That's a good point.
Don't leave it to the offense. Come on, buddy.
Leave it to ABC to show that guy instead of Farmer, who made the play. Farmer was the one who made the play. Show 44. That was.
I knew what it's too. We know Farmer how strong he is. When he got his arms around, like, oh, you're a Schrader. You ain't getting out of this.
And how many times has Schrader gotten away from a Florida State defender?
He's a big, strong dude. He can get away from guys, but he's getting away from Farmer.
That's scary stuff from 44. Yeah. Now we will take a short break to remind you about the greatness that is DeLuna Coffee and Warchant.com, respectively. And then your calls are coming up next. The lines are full, but before we take the break, Director Ben, let's wipe up that phone number on the docket. As somebody leaves and completes their call, a phone line will open. That's how this works. 850-805-5911. That is 850-805-5911. We will be right back after this on the Warchant Game Day post-game call-in show, presented by DeLuna Coffee.
Our head coach has a taste for the finer things in life. Personally, I like to picture him in front of a fireplace, clad in a garnet and gold velvet robe, with a glass of Lagavulin 16 and a Cuban cigar. Rumor has it, Coach has a brand new Bengal tiger rug and a photo of Brian Kelly on his mantle. Now, while Coach has high-powered offensive weapons at his disposal, FSU fans need only one thing to start their game day. That's DeLuna Coffee's Blue Angels Blend. Talk about high-powered. This jet fuel in a cup will have you feeling like you can take down a 500-pound tiger yourself. 2 cups will have you wanting to boost an F-18 for the pregame flyover. Our advice, though, leave the hunt to the professionals. It doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy the finer things in life, just like Coach Mike. Trust me when I tell you, DeLuna Coffee makes for one hell of an espresso martini. Head to DeLunaCoffee.com today to find out more.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from 5-star Irish O'Fell, the wit and perspective of FSU Encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to Warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today.
Are so grateful for each and every one of you that are joining us right now. 900 plus watching the Warchant Game Day Postgame Call-In Show presented by DeLuna Coffee. And if you'd like to try Warchant.com, you can do so for just $1 for 2 months. That's going to get you pretty much to early signing day, but through the entirety of this season, hopefully an ACC championship as well. It is just $1 for 2 months, and it is only for our Warchant TV viewers. We are not offering this on social media. We're not offering this on the website. It is $1 for our video watchers. Just like you head to warchant.com. In the top right of the website, there's a green button. It says sign up now or join. And then once you do, there is a code at the bottom that you can use, and you type in what you see in the bottom right of the screen. FSU and the number 1. That's FSU and the number 1. $1 for 2 months. Give us a try. You will not regret it. Thank you very much for considering warchant.com for all of your non-video needs. We now go to the phone lines. Our first guest of today is out in Hawaii. He's just eating lunch right now. Well, no, probably brunch time in Hawaii, I should say. It is Spartan Nole, Ralph in Hawaii. Welcome, Ralph, to the program. How's it?
How's it, guys? How's everyone doing?
Hey, Ralph.
6-0, man. How are you?
I am truly blessed, as I am sure everyone else is. When was the last time we were able to say bowl eligible at the first opportunity on the schedule to be so? This feels great, doesn't it?
It does. Maybe 2015. That's my best guess, but yeah, outstanding.
Yeah, I was thinking 15 or 16. Anyways, the reason for my call, because I know you got a lot of folks that want to contribute. It's so easy and it's exciting to see all these transfers like Keon, even Jordan, Benson. I would like to ask all the fans out there to just take a moment and really appreciate the guys that have been on the roster, recruited by Florida State, who's stuck with us through all those crappy years and what they must be experiencing. And very specifically, LT. What a run today, just hard-nosed. I love that dude with all my heart. I'm so happy he's a Nole. I wish him nothing but the best now and in his future prospects. But guys like that, I hope we really appreciate the guys that stuck with us and came here during the crappy years. Thank you, guys. Be blessed, everyone, and enjoy this ride.
That's it. Outstanding call from Spartan Nole 71 on the boards at warchant.com. That's Ralph. Yeah, Darius Washington, Maurice Smith, Robert Scott, Kalen DeLoach, among many, Keem Dent, among many, many others, Gene, that have seen a lot of dysfunction here and now see Florida State at 6-0, squarely in the college football playoff picture with every one of their preseason goals in front of them. It's an outstanding first half of the season. You can't do any better than 6-0 through 6 games, and they're getting to live that now. Sold out for a noon kick. When's the last time we did that, Gene, for a non-rivalry game?
And it's amazing. And Ralph had mentioned about being bowl eligible, and you mentioned at the outset when I brought that up, but it's amazing how that was we were so excited about that just a year ago, and now it's like ho hum, you're 6-0. We're about bigger aspirations, which is again amazing. I did a couple interviews with some Syracuse folks that this past week, and they're just like, how did this team get so good so fast? And it's all, it's just the culture changed, obviously. He's flipped the roster with the transfers. And as Ralph brought up, it was a very good mix of the guys that have hung around. The guys who have been through, seen the worst of times, they can appreciate this and they understand how valuable this is and what's going on around them. So it's fun to see. And we get to experience it as fans and as media too, be able to see in front of our eyes this dramatic turnaround. Like, I don't know if we've seen one in college football where a team was arguably at 0-4 losing to Jacksonville State a couple of years ago to where they are now. I don't know if there's been a teams that had that kind of rise from being arguably the worst team in the FBS to, potentially playing for a national championship. And we'll see how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, it's been quite the ride, and it's like we really appreciated some of those guys, Gene, that took it on faith from Jimbo Fisher in the beginning. Like a LaMarcus Joyner or Telvin Smith, or even to a degree, a Timmy Jernigan. It had started to move in the right direction, but Timmy had to say yes to push it to that next level. And then you see the reward from where they were when it started to where they left Florida State in a better place than they found it. Always words of wisdom from Ralph, and we look forward to seeing him on the mainland for the Duke game next week.
Oh, he's going for Duke. Great.
Yep. We now go to Ocala to one of our favorite callers as well. Wisdom is his friend, too. He's been waiting for nearly 40 minutes. Thank you, Gene in Ocala. Welcome to the program.
Gene, what's going on a victorious Saturday?
Man,
How y'all doing?
Kicking back in the rocking chair after that win, man.
Doing great, Gene. Doing great. 6-0.
Well, I don't have 15 minutes to simmer down and let the good things roll. So I'm glad that we won. I enjoyed the victory, but I guess my thing is the play calling now. If you don't have the play calling now, what's going to happen next week? What's going to happen whenever you face these teams that aren't going to wither under your pressure, if that makes sense? I mean, whenever we're at the goal line, I understand you're trying to get all these people with the touches, but I'll let Duke Span just let them run it so then you're seeing what's going on in front of you. But right now, you're talking about these people are coming off of injury. Jaheim, he's coming off of, he was nicked up last week. Why are we trying to run the Wildcat with him and he was nicked up last week?
Yeah.
I mean, does that kind of make sense? I mean, I don't understand where we're at right now. It goes back to what we were talking about, 2 years ago. You got Jordan coming in some kind of, Houdini in and out against Jacksonville State. What kind of message does that send to the team?
Yeah.
So today, if it was somebody else, but whenever you did that 4th and goal, and we're 21 of 21, we're one of 5 teams that have always scored in the red zone, and then you don't score. What is that? What message does that send to the team?
Yeah.
Again, we're nitpicking. We're 6-0, 12 games in a row. 12 games in a row with 30-plus points. I mean, you can't really complain. It's just whenever you think about next weekend and Coach Elko, I don't think that margin for error is going to be there to where if you're not decisive in what you do and what your game plan is in the critical moments of just being able to step up.
Yep. That's a great call, Gene. We appreciate your contribution as always. Gene Williams, sorry. Sequencing is sometimes something that leaves you scratching your head. I could tell you that when you get to see the wide angle view and maybe some of the things that Jordan's looking at, he's making decisions that are correct, maybe more than you would think it with just the game footage. Dominic Robinson is going to do a full study on that. He's back in the fold here for Warchant TV. And so his next project this week on Warchant TV is going to be a deep dive into what Jordan Travis is doing, the finer points of his game, what's working and what isn't. It's going to be very fascinating to get his take, because Dominic will zig when you think he's going to zag, because the tape tells you maybe something different than you expect to hear. But at any rate, I think some of it, Gene, is just about the inaccuracy. And then we have to come to the conclusion that until the offensive line is fully healthy, 1 through 5, left to right, they're just not as good as they were last year. It's specific things that we like to do and define ourselves by, which is like running the football. It's not as consistent.
I think, I think we totally agree on that. Some of the small things in the offense that need to be fixed for them to operate at full efficiency. But I think Gene's what's really trying to get what I was complaining about earlier, some of the questionable play calling during key moments, which is something Mike Norvell did a lot more, I think, early on. I think he's gotten better in that regard.
Yeah.
And I think his points is those decision-making when he got down the goal line, the other fourth down where they ran the Wildcat, when you're playing a better team that's coached better, that has, it's simply the game's a question. But to your point, Tom, what I don't know, and you brought this up early, is he doing these kind of play calling because of the opponent?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And in a game where he respects the opponent more, will he tighten things up? When they're down there, they'll kick the field goal to make it a 3-score game. When they got a 4th and 1, they aren't going to decide, well, now's a good time to do a trick play. We're going to, there's confusion because suddenly, okay, you got to substitute all these guys in and out. What play are we doing?
Yeah.
You're going to do an odd play, a trick play on a 4th and 1. I tend to agree with you, Tom. I think it's just because it's a little bit of arrogance on Mike's part. I'm sorry, Mike, but I think you knew this opponent was not going to score on you. You could see you were owning them, so you got angry, like you said, on 4th down on the goal line. You got one time like, we had this play, we've done a practice, we want to get Shaheem involved. We're going to do that play. I'm hopeful that he's not going to do those kind of things when an opponent is equally matched with you when the game's on the line.
Yeah, it's one of your favorite movies, Gene. It's old school. I like you, man, but you're crazy. Like sometimes, you're crazy.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like 4th and 4, and some of those play calls. So there's a nuance here, and we're talking about the same thing. But sometimes I think when an opponent is outgunned and you're able to break out some tricks, you might be putting something on film to set up your next opponent instead of playing the one that's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, and to Gene and Ocala's point, what kind of message does that send to the players when they know that you're not just running straight ahead?
Yeah, you're not taking them seriously. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you can work on secondary goals without keeping the main thing. It's a fine line, and you've got to know if your team is veteran enough to handle that. But there's some immaturity, Gene, there. There's some arrogance there. There's no doubt about that. Mike Norvell is still growing as a head coach. He's exceptional, especially for his age. He just turned 42.
Absolutely.
Happy birthday, coach. He's ahead of the curve, but that doesn't mean that he's a completed product in terms of decision-making. The good thing is you're able to learn these lessons, hopefully, in a blowout win, and then you can change what you need to do moving forward. But I think part of it is you might be putting things on film for others. Yes, you got it.
Well done, Jonathan.
Yes. You put these things on film for your future opponents to consider, and you might be setting them up for something because he clearly wasn't concerned today. This is the other thing where it's crazy. It's only a 14-point game. Your offense didn't go down the field to start the second half, Gene. You punt it, and all 4 of your backup defensive linemen are out there for the first drive of the second half. Man, you're crazy. That is disrespect, but it's also him telling you what he thinks about what Syracuse offense was.
Yeah, but I think we're probably overreacting a bit. And let me ask you this hypothetical. If BC doesn't do this crazy comeback, when they're way down and that happens because he started doing these kind of things and it backfired and you could never get momentum back.
Yeah.
I think we're a little shell shocked from what happened against BC. When you see these kind of things, it scares the crap out of you. Like this could happen again. We've seen this happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. So we probably are overreacting a little bit. I think the point is, the one thing I always said in the beginning with Mike Norvell, I loved everything he did. I go, if he has the capacity to learn and not be arrogant, because we've seen it. There was a couple coaches ago, we knew that was as arrogant as all get out. It would never, ever change no matter what he saw in front of his face. His way was the way or the highway. The thing that I respect about Mike is I think he's able to learn. He'll make mistakes and he may repeat them, but he's learning from them on the whole, which is a very rare thing to me for a coach because most of these coaches are freaking arrogant as hell.
Oh, agreed. And look, even before you get to a question like this, last year, if you look at how many different game plans there were, how many different styles of offense Florida State played based upon the opponent, that tells you that Mike Norvell doesn't have the issue that we're saying, all the time. There might be moments where you go, hey, man, settle down, take the points, or hey, man, it's not that big of a deal. Just call a timeout. I know you'll be pissed off and you could scream at them during a television timeout, not when the ball's being handed over back to Syracuse. But if you look at the way his offense changes, Gene, based upon either the opponent or the guys that he brings in, there's no way that he thinks that counter is the only way to win a football game. He doesn't run it as much anymore. So, there's plenty of good in that learning or that maturity department. But there are other times where you go, man, you're nuts. You're just nuts.
Hey, I know Z-Chan chipped in a little while ago, right before our last break, so we can get our favorite. There he is, our favorite.
Oh man, Z-Chan, the official DMD of Warchant TV. Today's crown goes to Keon Coleman, The man was electric. Fair enough. Yeah. If you're
100%.
going to choose the side of the ball, we all know what side of the ball you choose. If you're going to choose one player, that's the correct answer.
So breaking the rock, he's breaking the rock, I assume, although I could, I'd almost want to give the hammer to Fuller too. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know in this one. I mean, I guess you got to give it to Coleman. You got to give it to a player when in doubt. When he puts up 247 all-purpose yards, was electric as he was. But, Fuller deserves, if there's a secondary rock, you got to give it to Fuller.
Agreed. And Adam has broken it before, so that has happened. But yeah, Keon, I mean, with 2 phases of the game, he dominated, so you have to give it to him. We now go to the Villages, the promo master himself. We speak to Wes in the Villages, who stayed home this week. He'll be back up in town for the Duke game. Welcome to the program, Wes. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How we doing?
Hey, Wes.
Happy as a lark, brother.
I hear that. Hey, I was going to just piggyback off what you were saying about Fuller breaking the rock. How about that defense today? I really enjoyed seeing that. And, the offense had its moments, of course. You guys have talked about it. But when was the last time we beat a team, not only covered the spread, but doubled the spread? That's pretty impressive as well. I don't know if you guys would co-sign on it. I know there were some deficiencies and some things to work on, but you almost feel like, you hate to say it, even though you still didn't feel like they've played a complete game, but I feel like that's about as a complete game as they've had all year. What do you guys think?
That's a fair point. There are situational lulls there, Wes, but I think, if you kick the field goal, even though you didn't score with a goal to go off the turnover and you're up 17-3, you're disappointed, but you're not talking about it now in a post-game setting.
Yeah.
And if you don't look discombobulated on a 4th and 1 where you've got a pin and pull going on the left and God knows what on the right, and you get tackled and you get stopped short of the yardage, and Jordan Travis is demonstrative on the field yelling at the coaching staff, we're probably not talking about, again, situational stuff. Gene Williams, I say 100%. This is the closest thing we've seen.
Yeah, that's a great point, Wes. And I was harping on that before last week when I said it seems like there's at least a quarter every game where they just completely on both sides of the ball, they just melt down. They're not even there. Yeah. You're right. There was a series here or there. It was frustrating as hell. There would be a drop. We talked about the 4th down play. So there are frustrating moments throughout the games, especially on offense at times. But you're right. On the whole, the offense consistently moved the ball. The defense was obviously consistent for 4 quarters. So you're absolutely right. It was in terms of you're looking for a complete game. This is the closest they've had all season, which is, I think, to me, the most encouraging things, because those lapses scare the hell out of me, because I'm afraid against a quality team, you give up a 13-0 quarter, you're putting yourself in a hole and you may not be able to crawl out of it. So very encouraging from that respect.
It's a great point, Wes. Thank you for making that. Anything else you have observation-wise?
Yeah, no, I know you guys got a lot to get to. I just wanted to say I'll see you guys next week. I'll be up there for Duke. I'm anxious for a night game and to get to see the new lighting system. I haven't got to see it in person yet, so I'm really anxious about that. I think it's going to be a crazy environment, an awesome day. So I'll definitely come up and see you guys for the pregame show. And Ralph wanted me to let you know he won't be in for Duke, but he might be in for Miami.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to pass that along because I know he called in. Him and I were talking, but anyway, I'll cut the promo on the way out. You guys keep up the great work. Everybody, don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe to warchant.com, the best in the business, $1 for 2 months. You're crazy if you haven't done it already. Get on it. Get you some of the best coffee in the world, the Luna. You all be good, and go Noles.
Thank you,
Wes.
Really appreciate that.
You're the man. Well, that's a shame, Ralph. That's slacker. I mean, come on. You're only coming from Hawaii.
I might have misunderstood, or maybe there was a change in the itinerary, but I hope all is well out there, Spartan Knoll.
Yeah,
we now go to, for the 38th time in the history of Warchant TV programming, all of them on post-game shows. We go to the 516. We go to NYC, and we talk to Josh in New York. Josh, what's going on?
Tommy, Tom, and Gino! That's it. Enjoying another win for the Noles. Again, I have another personal point of privilege. Thank you again to another hosting for our basketball team. I appreciate it. Another one of my kids went down there this weekend and had an awesome time. But this is about Noles football. How about that defense? I've been the Adam Fuller critic. I have been. But we are starting to do exactly what the fans thought we could do, and that's play dominating football. I love seeing that. That is the best thing about our team, is when guys are flying around and playing good defense. Now, here's my question. here's my question, and I know you guys were talking about it earlier. It's not really a question so much to the point. Like, as a coach, Mike is absolutely putting things on tape. Because if you went back and look at the LSU game, he is not even coming close to running those things. The closest thing he did was a trick play, right? But that was like not even – it was sort of where the trick play should happen. He is absolutely putting things on tape because he wants to see if the guys can execute it when the game is still in the balance, and he knows he's way better than Syracuse, right? And you want to have the players have that sense of urgency, see if they can do it. And that's the reason why he plays younger guys early. That's the reason why he does those fourth down conversions while the game's still in balance, because it's different. If he ran a 4th and goal when we're up 41-3, that feels a little different than running a 4th and goal when we're either the game is in the balance of the first or second quarter. So I just want to provide a little bit of insight on that. I hope you guys have a great time. And one surprise, there's a slight chance that I am down there next week for Duke. It'll be the first time I've been down to Tallahassee since 2017 against Syracuse with Jacques Patrick running the ball, and I came to see Dallas. That's all right. We did have a good time. But go Noles, and I hope you guys have a sweet rest of your Saturday.
All right. Thank you. That's a great call from Josh. Fly safely if that's how you break it down. I wonder if he's escorting yet another player down here for basketball. Who knows?
Could be the pipeline. Josh is setting up the New York to Tallahassee pipeline for Leonard Hamilton. I like it. But yeah, that's. I hope you get able to make it down, Josh. We're able to see you next week. We'll have the usual happy hour meet and greet with Jeff and Corey. I may slip over there. Tom, I know you make the appearance occasion, but of course we'll all be at Hotel Indigo, and that'll be great getting ready for a night game.
Yep.
It was a little. I couldn't make it out there. It's just so pressed for time with those noon games. It just it's tough for everything, but I can't wait till next week. The night game, as it should be, we'll have a blast.
It should be a great time. And that's a good point. Josh is basing his point on that Mike Norvell is so arrogant about what Syracuse cannot do that he thinks it's fair to experiment.
But wasn't BC even worse than Syracuse? And what we just, that arrogance almost cost him a game, if that's what we're calling it at this point. That's why I think we're all a little shell-shocked. You get a little nervous when he makes these decisions. I understand this point, and it's a good one. Same reason, like you said, they had an entire backup defensive line out there when the game should still be in the balance.
Right.
At a point, why are you doing that? Well, I understand there's bigger long-term goals in play.
And the crazy thing to me, Gene, is it's coming out of halftime. Yeah, that's the thing. It's
not like his front line isn't rested at that point.
Right. They just had college halftime is ridiculous. I love the marching chiefs. My wife is a former marching chief. We don't need like 25 minutes between action there, and they were fresh. So that was a decision.
Yeah.
Like that was a conscious decision. Edmund, get out there. Malcolm, get out there. Briggs, but it worked. It ended up working. So now we go from somebody who is nearly at 50 or 40 calls on the Warchant TV network to the 120th call.
Whoa.
The 120th call all time on Warchant TV, the 757. It is Gator Kirk. Gator Kirk, welcome to the program. We missed you last time, brother. How you doing?
Good afternoon, sir. I was traveling last weekend.
We missed you.
Yeah, sometimes I gotta let other people call in too. I feel a little guilty sometimes. So I'm gonna do an Ira 2-for-1 today.
Nice.
So shout out to him. Two things. How about FSU soccer being rated number 1?
Yeah.
I mean, no one ever talks about that. And I had two other things. Okay, did Fuller outcoach Mike Norvell today?
Yes.
Yeah, he was the better coach. If you want to say I'd say the defensive coaches outcoached the offensive coaches, which would include Mike Norvell.
Unequivocal.
So I appreciate everything y'all do. Hey, everyone supports Warchant and the Noles. Become a booster.
There it is.
Join Battles in. Do all you can do. Everything's looking rosy. We're bowl eligible. I appreciate everything y'all do and for us and all the coverage y'all have. Y'all have a great night. Let's beat those Blue Devils.
There we go.
You got it, Gator Kirk.
Gator Kirk, all business today.
Good
all
to hear
business.
from you, though, Gator Kirk. Yeah, he had to make an appearance, and we appreciate that. But, support all those things. And a lot of people may not be aware. If you're a member, we got the $1 deal going on Warchant for 2 months. If you're a Battle's End member, you get your own customized signature image, kind of like you get a, you know how you get if you're a member of the boosters, you get your license plate, you get a booster plate. Yep. Same thing if you're posted anywhere on the boards, we're going to show that off that you support Battle's End. So it's a cute little, nice little perk you get if you're a Warchant subscriber and you're also a Battle's End member.
And yes, there is a partnership, where we are friends, these two organizations. And so a message from the Battle's End for you besides support them. You want more you want Keon Coleman's of the world to come to Tallahassee and electrify you with 200 plus yards from scrimmage, or all purpose yards, I should say, not yards from scrimmage.
That'd be something.
TheBattlesEnd.com. There's a way to support them and get something back in return. Head over to their site now, Gene. They've got a glossy of the Kalen DeLoach fumble return against Clemson.
Nice.
And it's going to be signed by all the parties involved. It's a pretty cool thing. So head over to TheBattlesEnd.com. You can order it. And again, every dollar of that goes to the Battle's End funding, if you know what I mean. And if you are part of the premium recruiting board over at Warchant.com, you know all about what the Battle's End does. So just a word to the wise that it's a pretty cool little thing that you can get while you're also supporting the program. Nice work by the Battle's End. So now we go to, for the 22nd time, man, we got a lot of return callers. I love that about this show, Gene. We've managed to build some relationships over the years here on the
It's like Cheers, man. Everybody knows your name. We got the regulars.
We go to the 513 and we're talking to Eric. Eric, we all know who this is. Welcome to the program, Mr. Eric. How we doing?
Gee, what's up?
How we doing, Eric? How you feeling today?
Here we go, Seminoles. Here we go. How about that dual thread, Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman? If I was a writer, they will be a Heisman together.
The first split Heisman in history from one Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Keon was a stud. Were you at the stadium today, Eric?
I was. He was a stud. He that catch, one-handed catch at Sports Center this evening.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're 6-0, baby. And G, that spectacular number 2 at CP is looking promising, brother.
You got to update. You got to come up with something else, Eric. I mean, we can do that, but I think we can do something even better this year, especially if they keep winning.
I believe Eric said a pizza party on top of it. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Pizza party.
Yeah, pizza party too. Yeah.
I'm all for pizza parties.
In the nation.
We'll get one. I'm sure we get one of these local pizza people to sponsor this. That'd be awesome.
There you go. All right. Anything else, Eric, or are you just enjoying the rest of your day? What's going on?
Hey, I'm enjoying the rest of my day. And you know what? The Zebras were all right today, so no F-bomb. But the F-bomb went out to Colorado last night.
There you go.
There you go.
F Colorado.
29-point blown lead. There he is. Eric Angel, for the first time in the history of the Warchant Gameday Postgame Show, brewed up by DeLuna Coffee, did not complain about the officials and said they were okay today.
Wow, I was still. There were a lot of they refused to call holds on the other team. I mean, there were 3 or 4 times you're seeing jerseys being held, guys can't move, being tackled behind the line of scrimmage. That was my biggest issue right there. They would not. I would say the good thing is, for the most part, on anything even close, they kept the hanky in their pocket, which I'll take that more often than not. So I agree there on that. But I don't know what it is about teams. And we've gone back and Corey wrote stories about this in the past. Ira has, documenting the inequity on the holding calls. Florida State will just never get them in their favor. They can continue to put guys in the NFL on that defensive line, but apparently they're never held in ACC competition.
It's amazing. And Gary Patterson from the infamous Boston College game 2 years ago was your head official today. In case that face looked familiar, that was the guy. But all in all, Florida State doesn't have gripes like they did last week, Gene, where there's a roughing the passer that wipes out Azaria Thomas's interception. There were just a couple of ticky-tack things.
Was it? Yeah, Rodney Hill was slammed 5 yards out of bounds. I think it was Rodney Hill, one of the running backs. And there was like, we know, like, come on. If that was FSU, that guy had been kicked out of the game.
Yeah, the Conrad Hussey hold on the punt return was a little questionable, too. Now, there was a scrum behind the sequence, and I think instead of giving him a personal foul, they gave him a face mask. But I thought that hold on because it was another electrifying Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I didn't see the hold because they showed the wrong player on the hold, so I don't even know if that even happened. So there was actually a hold.
It was, yes, Yes, but is it a football play? It's close. But then there's the scrum afterwards that they probably treated him kindly for. So, 6-1. But overall, again, just a solid ass day for Florida State. 41-3 is your score. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the Warchant Gameday Postgame Call Show powered by DeLuna Coffee. This is our last call for phone callers. I see one in the hopper, but you've got about 10 more minutes if you want to be a caller on the show to hit those lines. That's the number, 850-805-5911. And if you'll allow me, folks, a word from our sponsor. That's our friends at DeLuna Coffee. They are outstanding sponsors and stewards of the community as well in terms of what they do in the Pensacola area. They support the FSU football program. Longtime Noles, Ed and Brett Lemmix have a combined 30 years of experience in the coffee industry. Their claim to fame is their Blue Angels blend coffee, known as the first ever food or beverage item to be licensed by a military branch. It's really cool. Head to DeLunaCoffee.com to see it. It's a lot of fun. DeLuna Coffee also collaborates with a lot of charitable organizations, I should say, in their local area. The Blue Angels blend, the Midnight Shift, and the High Noons Lawman's blend donate proceeds to the U.S. Navy Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Program, the Raleigh Foundation of Pensacola, and the Escambia County Sheriff's Foundation, respectively. They're doing awesome work behind the scenes while also supporting the Noles and supporting you. That's Brett. Sorry, I blended their names together. That's Ed and Brett Lemmix for DeLuna Coffee. Head to DeLunaCoffee.com right now. Use promo code WARCHANT25 on everything but the BOGO on the Voodoo Espresso blend. Everything but the Warchant bundle. Everything else, 25% off. Promo code WARCHANT25. And if you're shopping in your local Publix west of I-4 and east of the Alabama border on the Panhandle, there's the photo that Gene was talking about. I was talking about a little bit earlier. The Florida Locals section of your neighborhood Publix. The Florida Locals section, not the coffee aisle. You can see it on the bottom left there. There's the Midnight Shift and the Blue Angels blend from our friends at DeLuna Coffee. Fantastic sponsors they are. We now go to another caller, and we're going to the 251. I don't know that we've got a call from the 251. Who am I speaking with here on the Warchant Postgame Show? Go ahead.
This is Brandon. I'm BC Noles 16 on the Warchant.com. Been a member for, I guess, 2004. And my 5-year-old son wants to say something.
Go ahead.
No.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
No, you're training them right.
I'm a big fan. Tom, I've messaged you several times. I don't know if you remember me, but anyway, I'm a big fan and it's first time caller, and I'm really excited. I've called several times and I could never get on, but I haven't listened to most of the show because today's my birthday and I've just been spending a lot of time with my son. But one thing that I want to talk about is Jordan started throwing the slant a little bit more this time. Mm-hmm. And I really think that opened up a lot of the deep ball stuff. And I think that Keon's touchdown was 100% because of the slant threat that we have been throwing earlier in the game, because that's what DB bid on. Just want to hear about what y'all think about that.
Well, first of all, happy birthday. Yes. BC Noles 16. I do know you on the boards. And hello to your son. What's your son's name? Rhodes. All right. Well, thank you very much for the contribution.
RHODES.
Yep. Thank you very much for the contribution,
Rhodes. Rhodes were very big back in the day at Florida State. Had a couple very good Rhodes that played for Florida State. So
exactly.
Good name. Good name.
That is correct. So, Brandon, I would say, and hopefully you're listening on, I just hit the drop button, but hopefully you're listening now. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to find it on your device. But 100%, it's a good point that the underneath throws, I think, paved the way for the downfield shots, including the seam shot to Jaheim that was not completed, and then the outside shot. Gene, a lot of times when Jordan's taking those chances down the field, our guys are covered or there's close coverage. Yeah. But in that particular instance, Keon was wide the hell open. It was good scheme from Florida State. But last year against Syracuse, Florida State ran quite a few slants, a lot of slants, in fact, because of the way the 3-3-5 is constructed. It's a good way to beat the structure that Rocky Long and was it Tony White? Well, I think was their defensive coordinator last year. That system is vulnerable to that particular route. I know fans have been clamoring for it, Gene, but the slant was there a little bit more today. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it was great to see. And I think we brought that the last couple of games. Just basically some of the underneath stuff will open up. It seemed like Jordan was a little too, stuck on trying to get that ball down the field. And I get it. You got Johnny, you got Keon, you got those one-on-ones, you got to do it. But man, there's nothing wrong with those slants or those shorter routes and that will open things up. Plus it moves the chains to me. So I really that was a good observation, Brandon, that was there. And first of all, yeah, again, happy birthday. And thank you. I think he said he's been a member since 2004. So thank you so much for your loyalty. And being a longtime member of warchant.com is very much appreciated. We couldn't do all these things that we do without people like you. So, yeah, great observation. And I'd like to see more of that because, like you said, Tom, that will open up those plays. And I think Jordan will get better at those deep throws. He was obviously still better, but inconsistent, missed a couple chances this game. But imagine if he starts doing that more and they mix in those short routes, those slants, and he starts hitting those long plays. Then the offense is reaching its potential. I think we've scratched the surface with the offense of what it can be. It's so close to hitting that fourth gear and really taking off.
Agreed. First name, John, thank you for the contribution. I get what your first name is now. I don't know if I'm crazy about Keon Coleman returning punts, even though he's exceptional at it. I'm worried he's going to get hurt. You can't think like that if you're a head coach or certainly the player, but I understand your sentiment, first name, John, especially with Johnny Wilson out. He's a valuable commodity, but he showed just how valuable he can be at punt returning. He was electric today, Gene.
But isn't the other thing, there isn't a viable alternative before? I mean, they were muffing punts.
Yeah.
And if you got a guy that can field punts, I mean, you cannot afford to muff a punt. It's great that he's a weapon, but I also think right now he's the best one on the team to secure a punt and make sure it's not screwed up and you lose a game because of it. So I get it. And I'm always paranoid. I go back to, I forget what the game was. I think it was against North Carolina, Leon Washington getting hurt on a kick return before missing most of his season because of it. So there's always that fear, but you can't play scared either, to Tom's point. You've got to play to win the game. You put your best players in those situations. And like I said, there is not a viable alternative right now on punt return. So I think he's got to be the guy.
It's the best punt returning performance, Gene, since, I don't know, maybe Travis Rudolph had a good day, but I mean, I'm thinking Greg
Reed. I'm thinking first thing you said that, I go, Greg Reed's the last one I saw that was that explosive on punt returns.
Chris says, I think now we can say that we have a dominant defense. JT still has to improve spreading the ball around. He is very much primary receiver dominant. And the numbers bear that out, Chris. We talked about that. Entering the game today, Johnny Wilson led the team in targets with 36. Keon Coleman had 33. The next closest receiver, 16. Yeah. So that's a good point.
Well, I'm saying we got Williamson in there a little bit more. Hakeem obviously got it. Well, that was different there. But, I mean, you got Destin Hill. I mean, Destin Hill to get in there, and Williamson, at least they had multiple catches in this game, is a promising sign. But I want to see more of that going forward. I hope it wasn't just a function because Johnny's not out there. We hope Johnny comes back next week, and if that happens, I hope that he doesn't revert to those. He's only going to focus on those two guys.
Ant, thank you very much. Took care of business indeed today.
Yes, we did, Ant.
A couple more of these before we go to. We got two more callers. If you're in now, you've made the cut. You have made the cut. No more calls for today. Thank you very much. FSU fan 1993. I meant it after the strip sack when it's 1st and goal from the 5, but that should be an automatic touchdown. I guess that was relating to an earlier comment FSU fan 1993 made. It should be. Agreed. I think that's what Mike was thinking on 4th down. But sometimes you could be disappointed and be up 3 scores. You know, that's,
I love your comment that he was mad. You know, it's almost like, you know, again, he's a young coach and he reacted emotionally to that call instead of analytically and pragmatically like he should have.
If there's logic to it, I don't get it. I hope it's emotion rather than logic.
What else would it be? The analytics don't back that up. And like you said, anytime you can go 3, especially a team that's struggling offensively and you're dominating, you go up 3 scores, you take that every time.
He was pissed at somebody on the end around a Deuce. It was either Jaheim for the block or Deuce for not cutting it up, but you could hear him screaming in the background of the broadcast. Couldn't tell what he was saying. Deuce came off the field, so maybe he was yelling that, hey, don't take that all the way to the sideline, cut it up and run tougher. But whatever it was, that might have gotten him a little bit, and then it influenced maybe some things that came from there. But thank you, FSU fan 1993. Kim, so Jordan sucks at passing and he can't run. Hey, I love you, boy.
I assume Kim is being a little having some fun with us. I don't think that's serious, but no, yeah. Like I said, I think Jordan is, instead of being in that upper 2 or 3% of quarterbacks, I think he's in the top 10% of quarterbacks. He's very good at it, but you're right. We want to see a perfect Jordan. We've seen in practice. We've seen last year in some games how good he can be when he hits that highest gear. He could be the best quarterback in college football. We want to see that again.
I want to be perfectly clear about Jordan. He's playing really well, but he's not playing as sharply as last year, in my one person's opinion. Both can be true. We now go to the 229. This is the first time you from this number have called Warchant TV. Go ahead, 229 caller. Who are we talking to? Hello? If you're calling from the 229,
Hello?
you're on. Go ahead.
There we go.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
We got you.
Who is this?
Hey, awesome. This is Nicholas Young. How y'all doing?
Hi, Nicholas. We're doing well.
I'm from South Georgia.
Okay.
Yes, sir. What you got for us today? Welcome to the program.
Yes, I appreciate it. Hey, long time Seminole fan all my life. But anyhow, to me, I know the score looks good, 41-3, but the offense, a couple drop balls there. I know we had some explosive plays, but overall, it's kind of like, I don't know. It wasn't a great game for the offense, in my opinion. I guess I'm being too particular here, but Keon it was definitely a Keon show without a doubt. Yeah. But with Hakeem Williams, he's going to be something to be reckoned with next year and the following year because he's, just explosive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing, Nicholas, and we appreciate the call. Be sure and call back. Hakeem has gone from – so Vandrevius Jacobs in the spring was the better of the two freshmen. It wasn't even close. The consistency or whatever's going on there, whatever. Hakeem has jumped him. He had jumped him by the midpoint of camp or the latter half of fall camp. So before the season started, Hakeem had passed him along the way. It seemed like, Gene, early on that Hakeem was going to be a possession receiver with a little bit of speed, but not like this. The high school film now completely is translating to the college football game. That, I don't care if it's Syracuse, Southern Miss, or against a Clemson defense. That burst 0 to 60 at that size is why Hakeem was a high 4-star or a 5-star, depending upon what service you're looking at. That's why you go get a player like that out of the high school ranks. He is going to be an absolute beast. And again, I agree with a lot of the fan sentiment. It's a great point total. 41 is always great. No matter how you shake it out, 41 is great. But sometimes it does feel a little bit messy. And both, again, can be true at the same time. So good call from Nicholas. Go ahead.
Well, I think, Nicholas, you nailed it. I mean, you said it was not a great performance by the offense. You're right. It was not great. It was good. It was pretty good performance by the offense, but they can obviously be better. I think it was a great performance by Keon Coleman. It was a great performance by the defense, obviously, and Adam Fuller's group back there. They really shut Syracuse down. So, you know what I will take of – and I think it was great special teams today too. Yep. We don't want to talk about the two. If you give me one good out of the three and the other two are great, you're going to win. Maybe you're probably going to win all your regular season games if you do that on a consistent basis. It'd be nice for all three to be great in the same game. But as one of our callers said earlier, I think this is the closest thing was at West. I think this is the closest thing they've had to a complete game all season. So they're getting closer. It wasn't a complete game, but they're definitely moving in the right direction. And yeah, Hakeem, you got to be excited. You got to be excited. Like you point out, Tom, the trajectory he's going on. It's not like he showed up this way.
Yeah.
Showed up raw, a lot of shape. You're just seeing this climb up and you're like, man, a year from now, where's he going to be when he starts getting better at running routes and they get more confidence in him? How good is he going to be a year from now, 2 years from now? He could be he could be Keon Coleman in 2 years if he keeps doing this.
Well, and if you want to be optimistic about it, folks out there who really like what they saw from Hakeem, Florida State gave him snaps on the road at Clemson. You don't do that unless you believe in the player. Was it a ton? No, but they didn't have to give him any. And that game was close the entire way. So that's how much this coaching staff thinks about Hakeem Williams. If you're hoping that maybe he could make an impact sooner than later, it's possible. That's 100% possible. Before we get to our final caller, a few things to promote. Corey Clark's column, there we go, is going to be live on warchant.com momentarily. So if you want to hear Corey's take on the game, that's what you can find at warchant.com this afternoon. If it's not already live, it will be very soon. The Vitamin Energy Warchant Wrap with Irish O'Fell and Corey Clark will be live on this channel. It's the first thing I do. When I'm done with this, I decompress. I pour myself another little espresso beverage with the Voodoo blend from DeLuna Coffee. I watch Mike Norvell's press conference, and then I watch the Vitamin Energy Warchant Wrap with Ira and Corey. Those things will be available on Warchant TV. We've got you covered head to toe. Please hit the like button underneath this video and subscribe to Warchant TV. It is absolutely free. And then coming tomorrow, there's going to be the Warchant PFF breakdown from our own Gene Williams. He breaks it all down. You find it on the Tribal Council of warchant.com with specifics on grades, snap counts, what Florida State did in certain situations successfully, where they're ranked nationally, Gene, in terms of advanced stats or the basic stats.
Mm-hmm.
It's a head-to-toe breakdown. How long does it take you every week to put all that together?
It takes a couple hours to go through it all, but it's a lot of fun. So especially you stats geeks like me, you'll really enjoy that. So if you're not on Warchant, again, $1 for 2 months, you get all this stuff. So in the code FSU1, the number 1 is all you need to hit to do that. So yeah, I'm guessing Keon will have the highest grade.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Though maybe you never know. There's some defenders. Sometimes we don't get to see some of the stuff that happens on the interior and so forth. We'll see how those guys. Maybe Farmer has a really good grade.
Yep.
We'll see.
I would guess that Farmer has a really nice grade tomorrow as well. So now our final caller of today's show is out in Denver. We go to Vincent in Denver for the 6th time on the Warchant TV postgame call and show brewed up by DeLuna Coffee. Welcome to the program, Vincent. How are you?
Hanging in there, but enjoying the 41-point victory. And I wanted to ask you guys, I think we all agree Keon definitely was the star, for today. But given that the showing of the defense was probably the best we've seen yet, I was wondering, one, who do you guys feel like would be the defensive MVP? I'm kind of leaning towards Shyheim Brown myself. I thought he made a lot of sneaky good plays throughout the entire game. But I was also wondering, too, if you guys feel like with the Duke game coming up, if our offense remains kind of inconsistent, could that maybe be a little bit closer of a game, than we might anticipate? Or given that they're also improving each game, if that may not matter, we're going to, take care of business. So just want to put that out there and to kind of get your guys' takes. But as always, appreciate all the feedback you guys give. It's great stuff.
Thank you very much, Vincent. We appreciate the call. Gene, do you have a defensive MVP at the top of your list?
I was looking at the stats back up what Vincent was saying. I mean, Shyheim Brown led the team in tackles with 7. He had a 1.5 tackles for loss, so both a sack and a half. He had a pass breakup. I think I'm with you, Vincent. I agree. I thought he had a good game, and I just looked up the stats, and I think you're 100% on board. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, agreed. Once again, that's 7 tackles, 6 solo tackles for Shyheim Brown, which means a lot of open field chances that he shuts down, 1.5 sacks, and a pass breakup. That's tough to beat. I think if you're going to vote for somebody else, it's Josh Farmer, who only had 2 tackles, but Florida State did perform well against the run today, largely speaking, Gene. It looks like, there were a couple of broken runs later on.
Most was an end loss contained. They were able to go around the end. You saw very little between the tackles. The interior of the defensive line was very stout.
Exactly. And you don't always get credit for that in the way of tackles if you're a defensive interior player. So it's a thankless position to a degree, but then that splash play, even though it didn't lead to any points, that's a hell of a moment because we know how tough Garrett Schrader is to break down. So those are your 2 choices. I think Vincent is correct with Shyheim Brown. And as for the Duke question, yeah, Duke is a better team. So you have now seen progressively better opponents week to week here in this 3-game homestand for Florida State. I think Syracuse is a better football team overall than Virginia Tech, which makes this win more impressive. And then Duke is the best of the 3. And if Riley Leonard is back at quarterback, that presents challenges getting off the field, another challenge for the defense to continue the dominant run that it's on. But yeah, if the offense is inconsistent, Duke, Gene, might be in a position to take the ball away and do a little bit more than Syracuse could do today.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't, again, people, we hear Duke. I think that's one stat left that didn't even get lost. So I don't think Florida State has ever lost to Duke still, right?
Correct.
So that's still out there. Yeah, this is the one thing they're going to do with Elko. They are very well coached. You're not going to get any freebies in this thing. Florida State's going to have to earn this. But so that's the point of the drops, some of the questionable calls, some of the missed throws, those opportunities. They're going to bite you in the ass against Duke. So you better be a little bit more buttoned up against them. But I think they're going to take Duke more seriously. They know what they are. It'll definitely be a different game. I'm kind of curious I'm curious your take of what you think the line will be. I think it'll be 2 different lines with or without Riley Leonard in the game. And I will say if Riley Leonard plays with a high ankle sprain, big part of his game is that mobility. I don't think if he plays this early coming off a high ankle sprain, I think part of that will be taken out of his game. Sometimes
the line is turned off until you know what a quarterback is going to do. But I'll guess that if they post one, Gene, and let's say he doesn't play tonight, and Elko says we hope to have
doubtful. He ain't playing tonight.
So let's say Elko says in the post game we hope to have him next week. Something in the middle in terms of his messaging. Yeah. I still think it's more than a touchdown. I think it's 8.5.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking 9 going into this thing. I'm going to guess it's about 9 points. And if they say he's out, maybe 11. Something like that.
Yep, I agree. Totally agree. All right, so we're going to take one more short break and then have our final thoughts from today's Warchant postgame call and show, brewed up by our friends at DeLuna Coffee.
The finest football program in the state and rolling into 2023 with a Heisman contender. Stay connected with everything Florida State over at the ultimate Seminole sports source, Warchant.com. Expert insight from five-star Irish O'Fell, the wit and perspective of FSU Encyclopedia Corey Clark, the latest on FSU recruiting with entrenched reporter Michael Langston, and the most active community of FSU fans anywhere. Warchant.com is part of the On3 network with a national team of reporters and resources that have created industry-leading consensus recruiting ratings, transfer portal rankings, and NIL analytics. Head over to Warchant.com to take advantage of this offer as FSU heads into a 2023 season with sky-high expectations.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take-home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas wall, featuring 560 inches of flat-screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is all the benefits of being a Warchant subscriber, right? If you're watching right now, you can look along with me. You'll see Garnet and Gold 10% off, special Warchant Days promos each month with exclusive offers for Warchant.com members, priority access and free gear at Warchant events. That's doing some things, right? Got to do it. Ask Warchant anything subscriber-only shows featuring the entire staff, a little Q&A with the entire staff, and coming soon, a new mobile app with improved functionality and less ads. That's really a good thing. Join the largest FSU fan community on the internet, everybody, at warchant.com. It's not close. Let's go. Get it on. Sign up today.
A longtime supporter of Warchant.com programming and Florida State athletics, DeLuna Coffee proudly presents you the Warchant Gameday Postgame Call-In Show. FSU alumni owned and operated. DeLuna Coffee's Ed and Brett Lemmix have a combined 30 years of experience in the coffee industry. DeLuna Coffee's claim to fame is their Blue Angels blend, known as the first ever food or beverage item to be licensed by a military branch. A percentage of proceeds from the Blue Angels blend, Midnight Shift, and High Noon Lawman's blend go to the U.S. Navy Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Program, the Raleigh Foundation of Pensacola, and the Escambia County Sheriff's Foundation, respectively. For a limited time only, DeLuna Coffee's Voodoo Dark Espresso Blend is buy one, get one free. Head over to DeLunaCoffee.com to check out that deal, as well as the Warchant Pick Your Poison Bundle. From west of I-4 all the way through the Florida Panhandle, look for DeLuna Coffee in your local Publix in the Florida Locals section. You can also always head to DeLunaCoffee.com today.
Florida State, a 41-3 winner, bowl eligible, as we said at the outset, 6-0 for Florida State to start the season, entrenching themselves in that top four, one would think, moving forward. A couple of scores from around the country right now. You've got a score fest between Washington and Oregon. There's 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. That's 22-15. Strange score. 22-15. Washington leads Oregon. Texas A&M leads Tennessee 10-7. That game late in the first half. Florida and South Carolina. Wow. Florida's put up 21 points. How bad is South Carolina, Gene? It's 21 all with 5 minutes to go in the second quarter of that game. Saw one of our posters put in the chat. Thank you very much. Wake and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech did start out 10-0. Right now it's 16-7 Virginia Tech, pending, I guess, a review on a touchdown. And then to come tonight are some headliner games. Congratulations to the Iowa Hawkeyes for blowing out Wisconsin so far. It's 7-0 Iowa in the second quarter.
So that game's over.
Yeah, that offense for Iowa, that is a big day at the office to score 7 points. So those are some of the scores around the country. One early game that was a little closer than the experts predicted, Gene, was Alabama edging out Arkansas 24-21, interestingly enough. That was a bigger line than 3. So this sport this year, everywhere around the country, there's a game at week at minimum where a top 15 team is going to get spooked. Alabama is at least one in the clubhouse today. We'll see if that night window, Miami, North Carolina, USC, Notre Dame, among others, provides us some more drama.
It's weird. We might be seeing the slow, steady decline of Alabama, it seems like, for the last few years. So it's a little odd. They're definitely not the Alabama team from 3-4 years ago that was just dominating college football. I think I couldn't believe it. I had to look it up. The record for Florida in the last 17 games on the road is 2-15. When I saw that record, I couldn't believe it. So I don't know. I mean, let's go Cox. Let's keep that going. And I am, I guess, looking way ahead, selfishly, hopefully it works out. Who would you? Because between one of those Pac-12 teams, I think the winner of this game has a good shot to be in the playoffs in the Pac-12. because I think they have a good shot. I would rather Oregon win. I want revenge for that crap a few years ago, and I just think they'll match it. I think Washington's a better overall team, so I would rather play Oregon in this. What do you think on that one?
I agree. Washington's offense has been really impressive the entirety of the season, but they haven't played anybody until today, and so far they're passing that test with flying colors. 22 points against a good defense in the first half. I think you're right. I think the winner of this game certainly is going to be in the Pac-12 championship game. It's just a matter of if they carry through. Maybe you get a rematch between Oregon and Washington. But I'll tell you what, Gene, I don't watch Game Day for entertainment value very much. Sometimes I do for information, if they get reports from around the country on injuries and things like that. But that atmosphere today up at UW was phenomenal.
Those kids getting out there at 3 a.m, whatever they had to do to be part of that thing, that's something. That was a lot of fun too. And tonight, man, how much are you looking forward to seeing? I'm predicting the Miami meltdown.
Yep.
If I'm Van Dyke, I think the first play, he takes a snap, he kneels, he flips the bird to Cristobal and walks off the field. That's what I would love to see right there. How cool would that be?
Just take the helmet off, leave it on.
I'm out.
And then do the Antonio Brown, go shirtless and start doing jumping jacks in the end zone on the way out, and then wave to the crowd.
And they can just walk out, do this.
Yeah, or he's got an undershirt on him, his next destination in the transfer portal, so he takes off the pads, and then there it is. It's like Oregon State, and you're like, wow, Van Dyke's going to be a Beaver. Yeah, agreed. That first quarter is going to be very interesting to watch tonight. Obviously, I want to see the Cristobal and Miami meltdown first, second, and third. But if North Carolina was to blow it, that's not the worst thing in the world for Florida State as it pertains to the ACC championship vision. So either way, Florida State wins. Gene, any final thoughts? Did we miss anything? We usually don't on the postgame show.
We were very comprehensive as always, Tom. I got to give us credit.
Agreed.
No, us, the chatters, the callers, we really covered everything. Again, can't be said enough. Great job by the defense. We hadn't seen that for a long time since last season. It's good to see them play as well and just completely dominate a team. You can't lose. If the defense plays as well, you're going to win every game. So that was very good to see. Special teams were outstanding. Keon Coleman, we were talking about the 247 all-purpose yards. Imagine if he didn't get the penalty in the other return. He's close to 300 all-purpose yards. I mean, what a phenomenal game by him. Like some of the development by the offense, mixing it up a little bit more, getting some other players involved. We don't like the drops. I get it. Play calling on fourth down. We went through all that stuff. And, as our caller brought up recently, Shaheem Bell, we should have probably brought up more about him. What a great game he had in this game as well. So very positive game for Florida State. There's still some stuff to clean up, but, there's time, and it gets tougher. We got Duke, who's one of the best coached teams in the country, coming into Tallahassee next Saturday night. Yeah, we will know soon if it's a 7:30 or an 8 p.m. kick. It's going to be prime time. It's just a matter of network and time. We will let you know at warchant.com the latest there. Thank you to Yuckmouth. He always gets one in before the buzzer. Thank you, Yuck.
Thank you. That's his second one today at minimum. So thank you very much. And for those of you that hung out, the 600-plus of you that hung out, a little reward for you.
Touchdown, FSU! Touchdown, FSU!
Another one.
Touchdown, FSU! Touchdown, FSU!
And Galactic, Gene Decker.
Touchdown, FSU! Touchdown, FSU!
Thank you for being with us today, everybody. To those of you that made the calls, we appreciate you. There is a
that's new. Nice.
live look. Thank you, Director Ben, with
wow.
the Oh, my goodness.
Did you not know that was coming, Tom?
No. Is that Mr. Clean? Like, what's he trying to do there? Oh, my goodness, Director Ben. Thank you. I didn't ask for that, and I'm glad you did it. This is why we have talented people behind the scenes. To Terry, the call screener today, thank you so much, Terry. Director Ben behind the scenes, awesome work. Gene Williams, as always, it's a hoot doing these shows with you. To our friends at DeLuna Coffee, they're at your local Publix. This is what it looks like. The Florida local section. That's where you can find DeLuna Coffee.
And what's that FSU? What's this? What's the code to get 25% off?
That's Warchant25.
Warchant25.
Warchant25 is the code. I'm just going to, Warchant25, all one word. When you go to DeLunaCoffee.com and you go to the checkout, it's that secondary screen where you put your credit card in. It'll be on the top right. It'll say discount or promo code. So that's Warchant25 at checkout, 25% off. Again, BOGO on the Voodoo. It's BOGO. I'm grabbing it here. BOGO on the Voodoo through the end of this month. So thank you to our friends at DeLuna Coffee.
And great job by you, Tom, today, by the way. I got to get that because I know you're going to wrap this thing up. I got to say what a great job you do. And you'll be doing you are doing the Sunday Smash this week. Is that correct? Tomorrow night?
That is correct. Yes. Coming up. Tomorrow night, Sunday Smash, 7 o'clock. We may even have a special guest. Stay tuned for that from 7 to 8 p.m. Wake Up War Chant will be live in your podcast feeds on Monday morning. The latest from Aslan and Corey. The War Chant rap will be in your podcast feeds as well. It'll be here on the channel on War Chant TV. We got you covered head to toe. This is the place to be. You like promo codes? How about $1 for 2 months at warchant.com? Head there, top right corner, green button, sign up, and use the code FSU and the number 1 for 2 months for $1. Thank you all for hanging out with us. It's been a real pleasure this week. Florida State is through the first half of the season. It goes by too quick. Savor this. 41-3 over Syracuse. We are 6-0. And next week, it'll be prime time on Bobby Bowden Field under the lights against the Duke Blue Devils. Go figure.
Seminole Saturday nights. Can't wait.
Just like the old school days that I was too young for, but still. For Gene Williams, for Director Ben, Terry Clark, everybody else behind the scenes at War Chant, thank you all for being a part of today's program. We will talk to you on War Chant TV next time.